guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. So I got a Sov Cit for you. And he's great. He's a Sov Cit. He knows the script and he uses it. I played the end of this clip on my stream, but I had too much chaos and tomfoolery on my stream to fit the entire Sov Cit extravaganza. So what I thought I would do is just create a video of it instead and post the video during the day hours, which is crazy for me. I usually stream at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time when everybody is asleep. So putting out a video during the day is really weird for me. People might see it. Anyway, if you have never seen my channel before, despite what you saw in my intro, I don't play Manning and Simpson and Webster, the YouTube judges, because they're covered. The greatest people cover them already. So I don't play them. I find the judges in the courtrooms across the world that are not on YouTube. And I find them and I play them. So as a result, when you look at my streams and my videos, you're going to see brand new judges that you've never seen before. This judge today, if you watch my stream, you might have seen him once before. He's in the sideway courtroom where the camera is sideways. And, that's how they post their stream, and I kept it that way. I'm not flipping the camera. That's the way they put it. That's the way you're going to get it. But it makes sense because it's a Sov Cit, and he's completely sideways anyway. He thinks his birthday is hearsay. But, he knows his script and he uses his script, and that's what Sov Cits do. So, without further ado, here comes the Sov Cit.
Now. And so, Mr. Luna, if you'll come forward.
For the record, I'm here by special appearance as amicus curiae sine.
Let me go ahead and call the case here. This is CT 2024-424, which is State of Arizona versus Tim Luna. Mr. Luna, your date of birth?
The date of birth for the defendant, March 2nd, 1985, but it is hearsay, as I'm unaware of my actual birthday.
You're unaware of your actual birthday?
The birthday for the defendant, the registered entity, I believe is...
For Tim Joseph Luna?
The date registered for that entity was March 14th, 1985.
March 14th?
Yes. For the record, my name is Timoteo Joseph Luna. It's spelled capital T, lowercase I, lowercase m, lowercase o, lowercase t, lowercase e, lowercase o. Joseph, capital J, lowercase o, lowercase s, lowercase e, lowercase p, lowercase h, and of the family Luna, capital L, lowercase u, lowercase n, lowercase a.
Give me just a second here. You said March 14th of 1985.
Hearsay.
You have a driver's license on you, Mr. Luna?
have a passport.
Can I see your passport? And what I'm looking for, I know you've included it in some of your documents that you filed, but I can't find where it was. And the reason I'm asking is because on
Judge just asked the Sov Cit if he had a driver's license on him. Okay, Judge.
the citation, it lists your date of birth as March 2nd, but you said it was March 14th.
Well, for the record, there's a difference between the living man and the entity that is the defendant.
I'm asking you your birth date, sir. I'm not trying to play any games or anything. Just what's your birthday?
I understand.
March 2nd is what your passport says, right?
Yes.
All right. That's what I was looking for. Okay. And so the record is clear. Well, let me back up. So the record is clear. Officer Mendez is present on behalf of the state from the Avondale Police Department. Now, we are set today for a civil traffic hearing, and this is regarding an allegation from February 1st of this year. There was one charge on the original citation. The allegation is no current registration under 282532A. Now, Mr. Luna had been here on a couple of different court dates. The last time he was here was April 8th of this year, and he did enter a not responsible plea on the charge, and so we set today's civil traffic hearing. Mr. Luna, you were present during the last hearing, but I am going to explain how the hearing is going to proceed. It's going to proceed in a similar fashion, okay? So I'm first going to swear in Officer Mendez, have him provide testimony regarding his actions and observations on the day in question, February 1st of this year. After he's completed his testimony, you're going to have a chance to ask him questions, okay? This is an informal hearing. The rules of evidence do not apply except for relevancy issues and privileged communication. The state has the burden of proving you're responsible by what's called a preponderance of the evidence. I'll explain that in a minute. So after I swear in the officer, take his testimony, you're going to have a chance to ask him questions, not a chance for you to testify at that point, not a chance for you to argue with the officer, just a chance to ask questions if you have any questions of him. Once you've had a chance to ask your questions, I will allow Officer Mendez to add to his testimony if he wishes to address anything brought up by your questions in further detail. Officer, did you have any other witnesses in this matter?
No, Your Honor.
Once he's completed his presentation on behalf of the state, the court will turn to you, Mr. Luna. You're not, go ahead.
For the record, I take exception to being called Mr. Luna.
Okay, what do you want me to call you?
You can call me Timoteo or Tim Joseph.
Okay, and your last name is Luna?
Mr. Lunatic.
Okay, so I'm going to call you Mr. Luna out of the sign of respect. I don't want to call you by your first name. Okay.
Well, for the record, what is the definition of Mr.?
It's a way of addressing males. Did you want me just to call you Luna?
You can call me Tim.
Okay. So Tim, after the officer's done presenting his case, you'll have a chance to present your case if you wish. You're not required to. If you choose to provide testimony or present a case, that would be your time to do so. I will let you know that Officer Mendez will not have the opportunity to ask you any questions, but the court may have some questions for you if I need to clarify things in my mind. After you've presented your testimony, if you choose to, because it is the state's burden of proof, I'm going to allow Officer Mendez to add to his testimony if he wishes to address anything brought up by your testimony, and then I'll grant you the last word before I make my decision today. Now, we are recording today's proceedings so that either side may appeal the court's decision today. Because we are recording, it's very important that only one of us is speaking at a time, that we're speaking.
Thank you, Judge.
Speaking up, speaking clearly, and speaking into the microphones in front of us. We have to all answer questions audibly. Nodding or shaking of the heads would not be picked up by this recording system. We also need to avoid using phrases such as or so we can keep the record clean and clear. So if there is an appeal taken to the Superior Court, that Superior Court judge would be able to determine not only what's being said, but who is the one saying it. Lastly, that burden of proof that I mentioned, preponderance of the evidence. Because this is a civil matter, the scales start off equal. If, after everything is said and done, the court feels that the scales are tipped ever so slightly or more in favor of the state and Officer Mendez, that's when the court would enter a responsible finding against you, Tim. On the other hand, if after everything is said and done, the court feels that the scales are still equal, which is where they start, or tipped in your favor by any amount, that's when the court would enter a not responsible finding, and essentially the charge would be dismissed. Do you understand that?
I had a question.
Okay, my question to you first was, do you understand what I just went over?
I comprehend it, yes.
Okay, what's your question?
My question is, when you say that the rules of evidence do not apply, what exactly does that mean? That the items that I've placed on the record are not going to be on the record?
We're going to talk about that in a second. So in a civil traffic matter such as this, the rules of evidence don't apply except for relevancy issues, okay? So it must be relevant for the court to consider it regarding the charge. And the only other issues that come under the rules of evidence are privilege. Any privilege matters would be precluded from being considered by the court, okay?
And how does the court determine what is relevant and what is privileged?
Well, it has to be relevant to the overall issue in this matter, which is the allegation regarding the violation of the registration statute. So if it's relevant to this charge, then it's something that the court would consider. If it's not relevant, then I'm not going to consider it, okay? Any other questions before we begin?
Now, you said that this was a civil and not a criminal?
Correct.
So, in a criminal, is that where an injured party is required?
I have no idea. It depends on the charge, right? So if there was an assault charge and the allegation was with injury, there would be an injury. But this is civil. It has nothing to do with criminal, so we're not going to discuss that.
Okay, so civil would be more contractual in nature?
No, not necessarily. That's a form of a civil matter, is a contract dispute, but this is not a contract dispute.
So it's a civil matter, but it's not a contract dispute?
It's a civil traffic matter. It's punishable only by fines. You filed documents yesterday. You filed several documents in the case, but you filed a pack of documents yesterday, a packet, not a pack, a packet of documents that looks like they were filed in on the 6th, and I think these were part of that also, the 6th of May. And did you marked, I think on some of those, well, offer of evidence, offer of proof, and then you have some things marked as exhibits in here, is that correct?
Yes.
Those were things that you wanted to be considered by the court for today's proceedings?
Those are things that I wish to be placed on the record for proof of offer of proof in case of appeal.
Okay. And so let's mark these on the back. It's a binder clipped packet because there are several documents in here. Is that a mosquito? Yeah, I saw it flying around too. I tried to get it. Let's mark that as Defense Exhibit 1 on the back, so we don't cover up anything. And then when you want to talk about that, I'll give you a chance to talk about that. Officer, did you have any exhibits?
I do not.
Okay.
Quick question.
Okay.
By marking exhibit on the back, the blank back of the form, are you marking the blank paper as an exhibit, or are you marking each paperwork that is listed?
No, I'm not
Yes,
marking each
the blank
page. You have
paper.
several pages in
Yes.
there.
Okay.
It's clipped with a binder, okay? It's one packet. I'm considering that one exhibit.
Okay, could you please mark the front as an exhibit instead of the blank back?
So if you can place that marker on the front without covering up anything that's written on there.
Thank you.
The reason I asked you to put it on the back is because I didn't want to cover up anything that was written on the front. That's why. It has no legal significance other than that.
I just wanted to make sure that the exhibit wasn't a blank page. So.
No, it's a packet. The record's clear. It's a packet that you submitted yesterday that has been binder clipped into one large packet. We are not marking every page of that packet. All right. Okay, any questions before we begin?
No.
Okay. Do you plan on providing testimony today, Tim?
No, I just plan on asking some questions.
Okay. So, officer, if you'll stand up, I'll give you a chance to ask those questions after he testifies. If you have your right hand raised, do you swear or affirm, Officer Mendez, that the testimony you're going to provide in today's hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. You can be seated, and then you may begin with your testimony when you're ready, sir.
Yes. Good morning, Your Honor. Again, my name is Officer Jose Mendez, 2145, currently assigned to the Avenue Police Traffic Unit as a motor officer. On February 1st, 2024, at approximately 09:39 hours, I was in the area of Dizer Road and McDowell Road, Avondale, Arizona, traveling northbound. The address is within the jurisdiction boundaries of the city of Avondale. The roadway on Dizer has 3 lanes for northbound and southbound traffic, and the posted speed limit is 45 miles per hour. So as I was traveling northbound in the number 2 lane of travel, I observed a silver and colored Toyota Camry also traveling northbound on Dizer Road in the number 3 lane of travel. As I was approaching the vehicle, I observed the license plate to have an expired tag displaying January 2020. Due to observing the expired tag, I conducted a registration check on the license plate of Arizona BMY 8256, and the license plate return expired with the date of January 15th, 2020. Due to the expired registration, I conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle, activated my red and blue lights, and the vehicle came to a stop on Dizer Road and Encanto Boulevard just east. I made a driver's side approach and contacted the driver, advising him for the reason for my stop was for the expired registration. I then asked the driver for his driver's license and registration, to which he did not provide, and advised me he invoked his Fifth Amendment right. Okay? So the driver then provided me with a yellow manila envelope, and it contained miscellaneous paperwork, but it also included a government-issued passport, which identified the driver as Tim Joseph Luna, with the date of birth of March 2nd, 1985. Due to having a government-issued identification, I then conducted a driver license check with the listed name and returned with the valid driver's license. I checked the driver license photograph, and it matched Tim.
The driver of the vehicle.
The driver of the vehicle. So furthermore, I then issued Mr. Luna a citation for ARS 282532A, which is no current registration, due to the fact that the registration was expired on January 15, 2020.
So your initial check, when you saw the vehicle with the tab on the license plate that it appeared that it was expired, your initial registration check, the traffic stop had not been conducted yet.
That is correct.
Okay. And you were able to conduct that. Were you in a vehicle or on a motorcycle?
At that time, my motorcycle was in the shop, so I was driving a ghost marking DUI vehicle as a black Charger.
And so you were able to run that.
I hate when the court interrupts perfectly good Sov Cit stuff with logical, boring court stuff.
Registration check yourself, or did dispatch have to assist?
I was able to run it myself, yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Officer Mendez?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Tim, do you have questions for Officer Mendez?
Yes. What color did you say the vehicle was?
It appeared silver in color.
Okay. And then, what were the two well, first off, you mentioned that I invoked my Fifth Amendment, correct?
Correct.
Did I also invoke my First Amendment?
You never advised anything about First Amendment. All you said, I invoked my Fifth Amendment right, and then you advised me that you were also recording.
Okay. The First Amendment to record the interaction. Now, you also said that you received some documents. What were those documents?
I scanned through those documents, so I really didn't read the documents because I was looking for some kind of identification, and that's when I located your passport inside the manila envelope.
Do you recall what the documents were?
I do not.
Okay. Are you able to make legal determinations?
Legal determinations on what? Can you specify that question?
Legal determinations such as determinations regarding legal action, such as the cause, the elements of a cause of action?
Well, when I made contact with you, the reason for my stop was for your violation of having expired registration. So that was my legal stop for you to make in contact with you. So yeah, so I made a legal action because of that traffic violation.
Okay, what are the three elements of a cause of action?
I don't know.
What is the definition of driver?
Somebody that's in possession of a vehicle and is operating a vehicle?
Is it a commercial definition?
I don't know.
Was the defendant operating in commerce?
I don't know.
Did the defendant have any passengers in the vehicle?
No passengers.
Did the defendant have any kind of cargo that they were hauling from one place to another?
I don't know if you had any cargo.
Now, did you receive the mailing that was submitted to, let me see here, where is it at? Did you receive the mailing, registered mail number RF 186577555 US that was mailed to the Avondale Police Department, 11485 West Civic Center Drive, Avondale, Arizona?
Yes, that mail was turned over to our command staff.
Okay. Did anybody provide full disclosure, which was requested in that mailing?
Sir, I'm going to interrupt you there. What's the relevance of this line of questioning?
In order to understand the nature and cause of these proceedings.
Get him, Judge. Get him.
In order for you to understand the nature and cause of these proceedings?
Yes.
That's why you have to ask him questions about if he received a packet that you sent him?
Yeah, because some of the questions in there were regarding if there was an injured party, what the bond information for the officer. And I can actually read these off.
I don't need you to. If they're part of your packet, that's included in that exhibit that we're going to talk about in a second. So I don't find this to be relevant towards this charge in this civil traffic matter. So do you have another question for Officer Mendez?
Did you receive the conditional acceptance?
Conditional acceptance is, which is what? Something you sent him in the mail?
For the ticket?
Yeah. Something that you mailed to the officer in the mail?
Yes.
Okay. I don't find that to be relevant towards this charge, this civil traffic charge that was issued.
Okay. Do you recall me asking if there was an injured party?
Yes. You asked me if there was an injured party and I told you no.
Okay. Do you recall informing you that I had conditionally accepted it?
Yes.
Okay. For the record, the conditional acceptance and the documents that were submitted were part of that conditional acceptance. I requested full disclosure and proof of claim. Did you receive the affidavit?
What's the relevance of that?
It was the affidavit in regards to the traffic stop.
Okay, but it was an affidavit in regards to your claim or your questioning of his claim of the traffic stop. Is that correct?
No, not in regards to the questioning, just an affidavit of what happened.
Okay.
And it was,
That was filed by, or that was sent by you?
yes, it was sent to both the court as well as to Officer Mendez.
All right, and what's the relevance of that?
It remained unanswered.
An affidavit remained unanswered?
Yes.
Okay, I don't find that relevant in this proceeding, so do you have another question for the officer?
Yeah. definition of automobile?
Say that again?
What is the definition of automobile?
What's the relevance of that?
To determine whether it was the defendant was operating in commerce or whether they were traveling upon the road.
What's the relevance of that? He testified that you were operating a motor vehicle.
Okay, well then what's the definition of operating?
Officer, do you want to answer that?
When you're operating a vehicle, is you are in full control of the vehicle, meaning that you have a gas pedal, you have a brake, you have a steering wheel, so you are moving the vehicle on your own.
Okay, is that term the legal definition?
No, that's just that's something that I just said right now.
Okay. Are we speaking in regular English grammar, or is there also legalese and
Two of us are.
Are you also speaking in legalese?
I'm speaking English.
So regular English? Okay, so I'm requesting the definition of an automobile and a motor vehicle, and I'd like to know whether the court is using the regular English definition or they're using the legalese definition.
Get him, Judge. Get him.
So motor vehicle is defined under 28101 paragraph 50. Motor vehicle means under A, means either A1, self-propelled vehicle, A2, for the purposes of the law relating to the imposition of a tax on a motor vehicle, a vehicle that is operated on the highways of the state and that is propelled by the use of motor vehicle fuel. Under B, either one of those, sorry. So that would be the motor vehicle definition.
Okay, so is there a different definition than automobile?
I don't see an automobile.
Okay, and then what about the definition of operator or operating?
Operator means a person who drives a motor vehicle on a highway, who is in actual physical control of the motor vehicle on a highway, or who is exercising control over or steering a vehicle being towed by a motor vehicle.
And what
That's
section?
under 28101, paragraph 58.
Okay, is operating, is that a, let's see here. Are you familiar with the case Newbill versus Union Indemnity Code?
Nope. Do you have any other questions for the officer?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's the difference, or what's the definition of traveling?
What's the relevance of that?
To understand whether the defendant was exercising his right to travel versus operating in commerce.
Okay. There's no legal distinction that would differentiate either of those for this civil traffic proceeding. So I don't find that to be a relevant question. Do you have another question for the officer?
What was the definition of driver?
What's the relevance of that? I don't think there is a definition for driver under here. It was operator that I read you the definition of.
To determine the distinction between a driver and a traveler?
Hold on. Drivers under 28101 paragraph 25. Driver means a person who drives or is in actual physical control of a vehicle. Any other questions for the officer?
What's the definition of traffic?
Traffic?
Yes.
What's the relevance of that?
I'm trying to determine whether it's the regular English definition or whether this is a legalese definition.
Under where? What do you mean for traffic? Where was traffic utilized?
Officer Mendez
Yes.
stated that he did a traffic stop and that the defendant.
What do you mean by a traffic stop, officer?
When we conduct a traffic stop, if a driver commits a violation on ARS Title 28, we conduct traffic stops, meaning that it's a traffic violation and we're stopping that vehicle for that traffic violation.
Okay. Any other questions for the officer?
Does it have anything to do with commerce, trade, sale, or exchange of merchandise, bills, money, or any other?
And the court's making a legal determination that any of those are irrelevant, no matter how the officer answers that question, that would be irrelevant to this civil traffic matter. So do you have another question for the officer?
Okay, so are we utilizing the legal definitions in this court?
I don't, the legal definition of what? I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just requesting that if it's regular English or the legal definition, because you just said you made the legal determination.
I made a legal determination that no matter how the officer would have answered that question, it wasn't relevant to this civil traffic. You're asking him questions about commerce and travel and whether or not there was cargo in the vehicle. None of those, I'm making a finding, and I have on the record earlier, none of that is relevant for this civil traffic allegation that was issued to you and what the purpose of this hearing is for.
So does the defendant have the right to travel freely?
I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm not going to debate this with you. Let's focus on this hearing first. So if you have any other questions for the officer.
Okay, what is the definition of license?
What's the relevance of that? You didn't provide him a license. His testimony was he used your information off your passport. He was able to determine you had a license. But what's the relevance of that? No charges dealt with the license in this case. So what's the relevance of that?
To determine whether the defendant was operating in commerce or whether they were traveling freely upon the road.
Okay, and under either of those circumstances, the court's finding that it would be irrelevant. It doesn't matter for this civil traffic charge. Whether you were traveling freely or whether you were in commerce, the allegation is that you didn't have valid registration and you were operating your motor vehicle on the city streets here in the city of Avondale. That's the allegation. And so I'm making a finding that whether you're traveling freely or operating in commerce makes no distinction to this civil traffic charge. So I'm finding that that's irrelevant, that line of questioning or that line of argument. Do you have another question for the officer?
Yes. The city of Avondale, is that a legal entity?
Irrelevant. I don't think that's relevant for this matter.
Only to determine whether the geographical location of where the defendant was, if that is part of the city of Avondale, the corporate entity.
In the city limits, the officers testified based upon the officer's testimony, and if there's any, if you provide any testimony, I'll consider that. But what the officer testified to is that you were northbound on Dysart in the area of McDowell, and the traffic stop took place just north of McDowell. That's within the city of Avondale. So this court would have jurisdiction over a civil traffic matter in that location. Do you have any other questions for the officer?
Yes, but every question that I ask is being answered by you, not the officer.
Well, if it's not relevant, I'm not going to let him answer it. It needs to be a relevant question.
It's not fair,
Or it's
Judge.
this allegation of whether or not you were operating a motor vehicle in violation of the registration statute under 282532A. If it's not a relevant question, I'm not going to let him answer it.
Is the license a privilege?
What's the relevance of that for this charge? There were no charges on this citation or in this case that deal with license. Deals with the registration of the vehicle. There's just one charge on your citation.
The reasoning for the question is to determine whether the legal definitions are being used or the regular English definitions are being used.
It's irrelevant. There's no license issue in this matter. He didn't charge you for driving on a suspended license or driving without a valid license or having the improper license. There's no license charge in this matter. So I don't find that to be relevant.
So how does he acquire jurisdiction?
What do you mean jurisdiction?
How did he acquire the license that was the license number that was placed on the contract citation?
You're asking how he got your driver's license number?
Yes.
Okay. Officer, can you state how you got his driver's license number to complete the citation?
Yes, once I received your passport, which is a legal document, government issued identification, I used your name, conducted a motor vehicle division driver license check, and returned with your driver's license information. And that's how I was able to put that on the citation.
Identity theft.
Go ahead, sir. Do you have other questions for him?
Yeah. The by utilizing the driver's license number, even though it wasn't provided to you, did you convert a right into a crime?
What's
No.
the relevance of that question?
Whether the right to travel is being converted to a crime?
You weren't charged with a criminal offense. You were charged with a civil traffic violation for not having proper registration under 282532A.
Okay, so the registration, was the registration in the name of the defendant?
No,
Who was the registration, what was the name under?
the registered owner of the vehicle is Divana Clevet Flores.
Am I responsible for the registration of a vehicle that does not belong to me?
If you're operating the motor vehicle.
And then that goes into the definition of operating, which
We covered that already.
I understand, but is it the regular English or is it the legalese?
I don't know what you're saying when you say regular English or legalese.
Well,
I told you, hold on. I'm trying to answer your question. I read to you the definition of operator under 28101, paragraph 58. I read that to you earlier into the record. Do you have other questions for Officer Mendez?
Yeah, but I was referring to I'm trying to understand the difference between a traveler, a driver, and an operator, and whether I am being this civil traffic violation is in regards to if we're using regular English or if we're using the legalese definition of it.
Yeah, I don't know. The state's alleged that you violated this statute under 282532A for operating a motor vehicle without current registration. Do you have any other questions for the officer?
Yes.
Go ahead. Tim, do you have any other questions for the officer?
Yes, I'm trying to find it on my paperwork.
I'll give you a couple more minutes, and then we need to conclude.
It's like watching a nightmare in slow motion.
Did the defendant cause any kind of harm or damage to the plaintiff?
No.
He harmed me.
So there's no damages. Is there an affidavit of damages or injured party?
It's not relevant in this circumstance or this type of case with the civil traffic allegation against you, Tim. Do you have another question for the officer?
Yeah, one more time. What did you say the color of the vehicle was?
It appeared silver in color.
Okay. We'll let the record reflect that the vehicle is not silver.
Are you going to provide testimony?
I can provide exhibits that show that.
Okay. Are you going to provide testimony regarding exhibits? This is your chance just to ask him questions. After you're done asking him questions, I'm going to give him a chance to follow up. And then if you want to provide testimony, I'll swear you in and you can provide testimony.
Yeah. Officer Mendez, what was the case number that was listed on the citation that was given?
240-5813.
Okay. What is the case number that is being currently presided on?
The court case number?
Yes, the case number.
Court case number is CT 2024-424.
Why is there two different case numbers?
I can talk to you about that after the hearing's over. It has nothing to do with the charge in this matter. The one is a report number from the police department. When those citations are filed, the court issues a court case number for our case management system.
Okay.
Numbers on your paperwork probably reflect the court case number that was assigned to the case once it's filed with the court.
If payment of this citation were to be made, who would it be mailed to?
It's not a relevant question for the officer.
Payment of the citation?
Sure. I mean, you're contesting the allegation in this matter. If you want to talk about paying something afterwards, we can talk about that, but that's not a relevant question for the officer. The officer doesn't accept payments in this.
No, I understand that, but what I'm asking him is the documents that he gave me with this citation, what is the mailing address in which the citation can be paid or settled?
Officer, is there an address on the citation?
Yes, so there's court information. Avondale Municipal Court, address is 11325 West Civic Center Drive, Avondale, Arizona.
So any kind of acceptance or conditional acceptance payment would be sent to that address?
Yes, you have to go through the courts, yes.
Other questions for the officer? Tim?
Well, I'd asked it earlier, but this was also part of my request for disclosure that remained unanswered, was whether Officer Mendez had made that legal determination whether I was driving and not traveling.
And whether he says you were driving or was he driving the vehicle, officer?
Yes, Tim was driving the vehicle.
Was I not traveling?
You were operating a vehicle, so you were driving a vehicle on the roadway.
So you're making a legal determination that I was operating and driving a vehicle?
I'm going facts and circumstances that I observed on that traffic stop while you were moving the vehicle. And I was pacing you, you were traveling approximately 45 miles per hour.
Okay, so, and again, you're using regular English and not legalese?
English.
English, okay. And
Do you have other questions for the officer?
yeah, are you bonded and insured with the state?
What's the relevance of that?
It was part of my disclosure statement.
Right, but what your disclosure statement, what was the relevance of that for a civil traffic allegation in this matter?
It's regarding this cause of action.
The cause of action was a civil traffic citation, a ticket that you received.
I understand. And
Right.
it's based off of legal determinations that Officer Mendez has made.
So whether or not he's licensed or bonded is not relevant in this matter. So do you have another question for the officer?
Have you sworn an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America,
Yes.
including, let me see, hold on just a sec. Can there be any kind of rules or legislation that would abrogate the Constitution or the rights secured by the Constitution?
No.
He's forgetting his script, guys. We could tell him what to say next.
Do you have other questions for Officer Mendez?
Yes. Is the use of the highways for the purpose of travel and transportation a privilege or a right?
That question's irrelevant for this proceeding.
Where is the injured party? When did I sign a contract? I did not sign a contract. There's no injured party. I'm not carrying commerce. Come on, get your script together, buddy.
Can the claim of a constitutional right be converted into a crime or a citation under the bills of pains and penalties?
Well, if your claim is that you had a constitutional right to travel and therefore the officer couldn't stop you to issue a civil traffic violation from the laws of the state of Arizona, if that's the argument, I'm going to find that that's irrelevant for this civil traffic hearing in this matter. I don't know if that answered your question, but if that's the argument regarding a constitutional right to travel, I'm finding that that argument is irrelevant for this civil traffic hearing. Do you have another question for the officer?
So a civil traffic citation is a civil traffic
You don't have jurisdiction to make that decision, Judge. You don't have jurisdiction. I didn't sign a contract with you.
citation without an injured party constitutional?
There we go. Good boy.
I don't believe it's unconstitutional in the context that you're framing it, that you have a right to travel and therefore you can't be stopped or cited for a civil traffic violation. I don't believe that that's correct, sir. So if that is your argument, I'm overruling it based upon relevance in this situation.
In order to operate in commerce, what are the what is necessary to operate in commerce?
I'm finding that that question is irrelevant under these circumstances. This is a civil traffic hearing regarding a registration allegation. It makes no difference whether you are operating in commerce or not for this civil traffic violation. Do you have another question for the officer?
Yeah. Can the use of the highways, can the use of the highways for the purposes of travel or transportation, can it be used for business and pleasure, or just business?
I don't know, but I think that's irrelevant for this purposes of this hearing also.
Well, the relevancy is whether it's to determine whether the civil traffic citation was in regards to a commercial activity, or whether it was regards to the right to travel.
Okay, and I'm finding that that question is not relevant for a civil traffic hearing where the allegation is that a state statute regarding registration was alleged to have been violated. So whether or not there was travel in commerce or commercial travel or commercial movement, I'm finding any of those arguments to be not relevant or irrelevant in this setting for a civil traffic violation.
So is it required for everyone of the people to be licensed and to have their mode of transportation registered?
If people are going to operate motor vehicles on the highways, the roads in Arizona, the public roadways in Arizona, they have to be licensed, they have to have insurance, they have to have registration for the vehicles.
Okay, motor vehicle and operating, that's where I'm having a somewhat of a misunderstanding.
Okay. Do you have other questions for the officer?
Yes. Can a sanction or penalty be imposed on one because of the exercise of a constitutional right?
I'm finding that that question is irrelevant for this hearing, for a civil traffic hearing. You've made your record, right? You're claiming that you have a right to travel under the Constitution, and that therefore that you can't be charged or cited with this violation. You've made that. That's on there. I'm not accepting that as a legal argument in this case. It's a civil traffic case. And so I'm finding that that argument's irrelevant, but it's part of your record, right? And so if I don't give you the outcome that you want, you can appeal, and it's part of your record already. But you keep going back and you keep asking these questions.
Well, it's to determine whether, like you said, you're making the legal determination, correct?
I'm making a legal determination that that's not relevant for a civil traffic hearing in this matter. That's correct.
And if it's regarding legal, I'm trying to understand whether we're using the legal definition or whether we're using English grammar, regular English grammar.
Okay, but that wasn't the point. You've made that point several times too, but that wasn't the point you were making just then. You were asking questions about whether or not you were considered traveling or not, right? And my decision is it doesn't matter whether you were traveling, right? If you were operating a motor vehicle, so whether you were traveling or not, I find that irrelevant in the context of this civil traffic matter. You've submitted documents, you've asked several questions, your objection is preserved, that you can, if the decision is against you in this matter, you can appeal that at the next level. Do you have any other questions for the officer?
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to give you a couple more minutes because we've been going almost an hour on this hearing now.
Has there been any kind of assumptions or presumptions that you've made in regards to the definitions being used?
No.
Is there a distinction between the right to use the road versus a privilege?
That's irrelevant in this matter.
So, Officer Mendez, you are making the distinction that the defendant was traveling in a motor vehicle and not an automobile?
You were operating a motor vehicle. Yes, you were operating a motor vehicle.
Okay. What is the definition of that motor vehicle?
I believe we just went over that.
Yeah, I read that into the record earlier. Do you have any other questions? Because we're going to wrap this up, Tim.
Yes.
Questions that you haven't asked before that are relevant to this setting in this type of case?
Is, no, I did ask that already.
Any other questions for Officer Mendez?
I guess some for the court.
Okay, do you have any other questions for the officer?
Let me just double check here and make sure that I asked everything that I wish to ask. So, and I'm not sure if I asked this or not, but I just want to, for the record, are you authorized to make legal determinations?
I'm on the roadway to enforce traffic laws, which is ARS Title 28, and criminal charges as well, ARS Title 13.
We'll let the record reflect that it's a non-responsive answer.
Do you have any other questions for Officer Mendez?
Yes. Can Officer Mendez provide a responsive answer to that question?
He answered it. So I'm not so sure it's relevant. I allowed him to answer it, but you're gonna stick with that answer. He's gonna stick with that answer. And so, do you have any other questions for him?
Did you follow due process?
Yes.
Did the citation have any kind of signature from a judge or clerk of court?
No.
Any other questions, sir? I'll give you one more question.
Yes.
No other questions?
I do. I'm just trying to locate it on this paperwork. Do you believe that the defendants operating of the? Do you believe that the defendants? Forgive me because I don't want to use the term operating as I'm not sure whether the legal definition is being used or regular English. But,
We've read the definition into the record, I think, twice, but go ahead, ask your question.
Does the defendant have the right or privilege to travel?
It's not relevant for this proceeding. All right, officer, did you have any additional testimony based upon Tim's questions of you?
I do not, Your Honor. The only thing, like I said, he did have expired registration. It was verified through the Motor Vehicle Division, and it was confirmed expired 1/15 of 2020.
Okay. Tim, did you wish?
I need an aspirin or some rum before Mr. Lunatic goes on.
To provide testimony in this matter?
No, well, I guess, yeah, the provide testimony in regards to the color of the vehicle.
Okay, so stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide in today's hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. You wanted to provide testimony regarding the color of the vehicle?
I'd like to provide some, let me see here, pictures. I have some extra copies of them as well.
Okay, how many pictures? Just one?
Yeah, it's one picture. I just got a couple different sizes. I don't know if you guys want a regular picture or a...
It's up to you. How many pictures are you putting in?
One picture.
Okay, if you'll bring that up, Ruby will mark that as Defendant's Exhibit 2. Just one picture? Is this all the same picture? Okay, so we can mark that on the back of that. And you want me to consider this, is that correct, sir?
Yeah, that the color of the vehicle was not silver. The color of the automobile, should I say?
Okay, anything else?
I just have some questions for the court, I guess.
Okay, but nothing else regarding testimony?
Well, okay, I'll say this, that I was not operating in commerce.
Okay,
There was no cargo. There was no passengers. There was no money or currency or whatever form of payment being made.
Injured party.
And I'm unaware. I have no knowledge or evidence that this court is not using the legal definition of these words. And I have no knowledge or evidence that Officer Mendez is not making a legal determination based off of regular English words in comparison to legalese or the legal definition of words.
okay.
That's the officer, but he didn't even ask the judge if he swore an oath to the Constitution or if he's practicing from the bench. He didn't even say anything about crossing the bar. This is a terrible Sov Cit.
Anything else, sir?
No, other than just questions for the court.
Okay. Officer, did you have any testimony that you wanted to provide based upon Tim's testimony?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So I've taken into consideration the testimony of Officer Mendez. I've taken into consideration the testimony of Tim Luna, the defendant in this matter. Defendant's Exhibit 2 was admitted, the single picture. The filings made by Mr. Luna on yesterday's date, which was May 6th, we have marked, as mentioned earlier, as Defendant's Exhibit 1. I reviewed those documents yesterday. I am going to admit those documents. However, the court does not find that they're relevant, but I am going to admit them to include them as part of the record for any purposes that Mr. Luna may find appropriate, okay? But I did review those documents yesterday, and based upon the testimony that I've heard today in the hearing.
What if the next words the judge says is, I find him innocent based on the single picture that he provided, and the car is not, in fact, silver?
Hold on. Based upon the testimony I've heard today during the hearing, I do not find what was included in Defense Exhibit 1 filed yesterday that's been marked and admitted to be relevant. So based upon the testimony that the court has heard and the exhibits as mentioned earlier, the court is going to find that the state has proven the allegation in this matter under count A, 282532A, by more than a preponderance of the evidence. And so I am finding Tim Luna responsible in this matter. The sanction is $603. There is an $18 court enhancement fee that's added, so that total comes to $621. Tim, are you able to pay that today, the $621, or do you need a payment plan?
I had some questions regarding the exhibits.
All right, I'm asking you, okay, and then we'll address your question regarding the exhibit. Are you able to pay that $621 today, or do you need a payment plan?
How do, what form of payment, or what form of currency, in what form does the court require payment in?
You can pay us in cash, you can pay us in a credit card if it's in your name. Yeah, so either one of those. So are you gonna pay the $621 today, or do you need a payment plan?
Is it lawful for the state to demand anything other than gold and silver as
I'm not asking that you pay this in gold and silver. Listen to my question. Are you paying the $621 today, or do you need a payment plan?
well, I wish to make an offer of proof
About what?
for appeal
Okay, what's that?
that there was 22 exhibits, not just 2.
I don't know, the 22, are you referring to what was in your packet that the court marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1?
Yes, and I just wish that the record reflect that it's not just 2 exhibits, but that there is 22 other exhibits included in that packet.
Okay.
I don't wish that my documents are not placed on the record, so that way I can use those for the appeal.
Yeah, so if you heard what I stated earlier, instead of marking them all individually, I marked it as one packet. It's bound by a binder clip. It's everything that you dropped off that you filed yesterday with the court, May 6th. We marked it as Defense Exhibit 1, okay? That's how the court views it, as one exhibit. I know you think that you have marked in there that you've marked it as several exhibits. It's one exhibit, a large packet that you dropped off yesterday. It's all gonna be in the record, right? So it was admitted. I believe, and I explained that on the record, that it was not relevant to today's hearing and today's charge, but I've admitted it to include it for appeal purposes, okay? So that's $621. Are you paying that today, or do you need a payment plan?
Did you take, Honorable Craig Jennings, did you take an oath to the Constitution?
Yes, but we're not going to talk about that now. I need to conclude this hearing because I have an
Finally.
in-custody matter that I have to go deal with. My question to you is very direct, sir. Are you going to pay the $621 today, or do you need a payment plan?
If I wish to appeal, do I need to pay that today?
There's a process, a notice of appeal that you can file. I'm going to mark that you're paying that today. If you're not going to pay it today by 6, we can set up that payment plan for you. We just have to add a one-time $20 time payment fee, which is required by law. Now, Yadi's going to give you a copy of this document, the judgment and sentence order. She's also going to give you a document regarding your appeal rights and your appeal process. Please pay attention to that document if you wish to appeal the court's decision today. There are several things that you must do. First, and you're going to sign for it, and we're going to give you a copy of it. First, you have to file what's called a notice of appeal. That's a notice you can get up at our front counter. It has to be filed in this court within 14 days after today's court date. Secondly, there are requirements that are listed in the paperwork that you must complete. And then lastly, you must meet those requirements by the deadlines, the timelines listed in the paperwork. If you fail or neglect to complete any one of those 3 steps, you would be giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Not all the way, but I can read it on the form, I guess.
Okay, she'll give you that document. Thank you both for being here. We can go off the record.
I thought you said you were going to allow me to say one last thing on the record.
Oh, okay. What did you want to say?
I wanted to actually pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Okay, well, we're not going to do that.
Thy
as part of
kingdom
this
come,
process.
thy
We
will
can
be
go off the
done
record.
on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily.
All right, did the taser come out now or did it not? The officer's just sitting there. I don't know where the bailiff is, but the judge cut the feed down, and he did not come back up. He stayed down for the rest of the day. How much you want to bet he's going for his flask right now? I know I am. I need a break. Oh my gosh. I don't get it. So, like, if I'm streaming and I say something like banana instead of banana, like, that's embarrassing. Just one word. Just getting one word wrong, a little bit wrong, is embarrassing. These Sov Cits go into the courtroom in front of everybody and say the stupidest things for hours. And they're completely fine with that. Oh, man. I don't remember Sov Cits in the 80s. Do we have them, guys? Someone tell me. Because I feel like they would get slapped around a little bit in the 80s. We're talking about the 80s. If they would try that. I'm just thankful we didn't all have tasers in the 80s. Guys, thank you for watching a middle of the day video. Make sure you come into the stream every once in a while. If you can't come into the stream every once in a while, replay it after the chat. So when you do a live stream, it takes a day or two for the video to process the whole way. So live chat replay doesn't come up right away all the time. Wait for it, because our chat is the best. It is so funny. It makes the videos so much better. You don't even know. But if you can stop in the chat and say hi, stop in the chat and say hi. We would appreciate it. And I do have a Patreon link. It's because I'm demonetized right now by YouTube. I have a Patreon link in my description. You can actually join that as a free member as well. And I have Judge Fleischer on there. And I have the greatest lawyer of all time on there. And I have a picture of me in the back of a police car on there. So we also have a Discord link in my description. Come in a Discord and say hi. We have so much fun in Discord. We play games. And we have all of our pets in there. We talk about food an awful lot. Like a lot. Like more than we talk about court, maybe, I think. We talk about food. I don't know. But I do have 2 celebrities in my Discord, too. And that you can access in the middle of the day instead of in the middle of the night for me. Thanks for coming out today, guys. Appreciate it. And I will talk to you next time. Behave. Bye.